It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back to your Feel Good Breakfast Show, Expresso on SABC3. Now, if you're wondering what's happening right now on your screen, you'll see a scroller at the bottom there in blue and a QR code, I think, to your left, or your right, our left.
Right.
We are helping CHOC to raise funds for their brand new CHOC Children's Home in Pretoria, and you too can make a difference and help keep More Than Hope alive by downloading SnapScan, scanning that QR code on your screen, and then donating to CHOC. And we are trying to, as I said, help to keep More Than Hope alive.
That's an easy way to certainly donate. And you know what? The month of July, it is Mental Illness Awareness Month. And in South Africa, statistics show that 1 in 3 people will suffer from some form of mental illness in their lifetime. Now today, Dr. Darren Green, he joins us to focus on what happens to our minds as we age, and hopefully we can gain a better understanding of how conditions like dementia develops and what we could possibly do to prevent it.
Good to have you here.
Morning.
Signore. The brain, one of probably the most misunderstood or least understood parts of our bodies. And I just wonder why it is. It's almost like the most essential part that we need to understand.
Drives everything, doesn't it?
Exactly. So what exactly is dementia, and what different forms can it take?
Yeah, it's more a syndrome. So it's a term that we use collectively to describe certain changes that occur in one's mental state, pertaining particularly to your cognition, which are your thoughts, which can involve everything from memory, planning, executive function, through to your psychiatry, which is your mood, you know, in terms of it being elevated or depressed, up or down, but then also, obviously, your behaviors around your activities of daily living. So dementia is this progressive decline in mental ability that can affect you on all those multifaceted levels over a progressive period of time.
Now, Dr. Darren Green, the misconception is that dementia kicks in as age progresses. Is that true? Is it something that only happens to people that, you know, as they get older, they get dementia?
100%. So a lot of people think that natural aging involves dementia, and it doesn't. Alzheimer's dementia, which is a specific type of dementia, is associated with people generally over the age of 60 or the late middle to late life, for example. That certainly represents 60 to 80% of dementia out there. But there are other causes of dementia too, related to lifestyle factors, related to the blood supply in the brain, called vascular dementia, which has a different progression and a different pattern of development over time. And certainly you find people developing decline in cognitive ability and mental flexibility and mental function even earlier on in life. So it's not always an age-dependent thing. There's also a thing called natural aging, where you might forget where you put your shoes, for example, or misplaced your keys. That doesn't mean you've got early signs of dementia. People need to understand the definition of mild cognitive impairment, which is almost regarded as a pre-dementia state. On the way to dementia, where you start losing some of those abilities, but you can still function in your daily living. That's called MCI, or mild cognitive impairment.
Yeah. So in all of the science and research that has been done over the years, have medical professionals been able to identify the exact cause of dementia, even though, as you've just said, it occurs on so many different levels? Is there a direct link?
With Alzheimer's, which is the biggest group, 60 to 80%, as I mentioned, we know that the pathology involves two things. They involve beta amyloid plaques, protein that's deposited between the brain cells. That's what happens. Now, some people have the gene and they don't develop Alzheimer's. Some people don't have the gene and they develop it. So we don't know why people that have the dementia or the Alzheimer's gene, some of them express the disease and have those abnormal proteins deposited, and others don't. The other thing are what's called tangles. You hear people refer to neurofibrillary tangles, which actually deposit also another protein, tau protein, inside the cells of the brain. And that obviously being the pathology of Alzheimer's. When it comes to looking at how to preserve function in the brain, medical research and science are using certain medications to halt the process. Regarding the reversibility of the process, that's obviously where we'd like to be. We want to know if you can reverse dementia. At the moment, there isn't a reversing drug, a wonder drug out there that reverses dementia. We try and slow the progression down and preserve the function someone has, and then address the lifestyle factors. So we're trying to hit people a lot earlier, before they even get to that late 60-old age.
All right. Well, we're going to keep Dr. Darren Green here with us to inform us and enlighten us more on these issues regarding mental illness. Of course, July being Mental Illness Awareness Month, and we're focusing on dementia today. You can give us a call on 021 4309 881 if you have any questions or comments to make.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
All right, we're back again with Dr. Darren Green, of course, addressing a very important issue, that of mental health being, or July being the month of mental health awareness. And we were just speaking right now, I don't know if you saw news during the week of the passing of Professor Mayosi.
Yes,
at 50 years old, right?
In his 50s. I mean, an iconic legend. Just such an impact on so many lives and touching so many lives. And our condolences to his family if they are watching. But, you know, just the importance of putting mental health in the limelight so that we can actually be more aware of people that are suffering in silence with depression, with the mood-related things. And you must imagine in Alzheimer's too, people are aware of their loss quite often. They're aware of the fact that I can't remember things, or I'm forgetting what my grandchildren, sometimes even what their names are, or what my own children look like. And how they deal with that is they mimic it so well often that you finish their sentences for them. Remember the time when we were at... and then you finish the sentence for them. And then you kind of spoil them because you don't want to make them feel embarrassed, so you start it. And so the family and the caregiver starts being brought into the picture when it comes to mental health. And with dementia particularly, dealing with that loss of ability and cognitive function over time, it's certainly something that we all need support on, and where families really need to know where they can go for help.
Yeah. Okay, well, our lines are open. 021 430 9881. Give us a call with your questions or comments for Dr. Darren Green.
Yes. Well, Doctor, I wanted to know from you, what are some of the first signs people need to look out for when it comes to early dementia?
Yes, good. So you can start off with behavioral changes where you just act differently. Your program for how you do things, remembering how to button your shirt, tie your shoelaces. You'll just be in the middle of the act and suddenly remember, or not remember, how to do it. You could be driving your car and lose the plan or the map to where you're going suddenly. You could have memory loss as a main symptom. So depending on which area of the brain and which type of dementia you have, that would manifest as the clinical picture. So I mentioned some people have hallucinations, some people have really bad mood effects, and then other people have problems with planning. Like they forget how to make a cup of tea, for example.
Yeah.
It's
Just, you know, and as I say, it can be a progressive process, but some days suddenly you notice it quite quickly. And often we unmask dementia by taking someone out of their comfort zone. So if you take someone out of their normal apartment and kitchen or whatever, where they know where everything is, they kind of can work their way around it. But when you put them in a strange environment, they're very fearful and anxious. And that's one of the things we do when caring for people with dementia, is to give them that safety of not being taken into a strange environment.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, I can almost imagine that once you are aware of something like that happening, it could be quite a traumatizing thing where you don't know how you forgot how to button a shirt. And so there must be quite a lot going on in your mind. What kind of questions do people that notice those early symptoms?
Well, I think they're surprised first. You'll be standing in front of the mirror, for example, or brushing your hair, and you suddenly see a brush, but you don't know how to use it. I mean, that is scary. It's really scary not to know how to use something. And then you start thinking, but is everyone watching me? And you start becoming a little bit paranoid that people are going to notice. And then you start steering away from something sometimes. And things like hygiene, for example, can also can be shifted to the side during cognitive decline and mood related to this loss as well, you can imagine. But obviously dealing with that is quite important. So the observing caregiver and family's eyes are the ones that actually assist in picking up things quite early.
Well, it's interesting that you mentioned that. We're going to take a quick break away from Dr. Darren Green, and when we get back, we're actually going to talk about how to approach it if you notice one of your family members are showing signs of dementia. But our lines are open, so do call us. It's 021 430 9881. We'd love to hear from you.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
Welcome back. It's your Feel Good Breakfast Show, Expresso on SABC3. We are helping to keep More Than Hope alive by supporting CHOC in their effort to get a brand new CHOC Children's Home in Pretoria. And you can do the same. You can download SnapScan and scan that QR code that Zoe was trying to show you there on the
Trying to
right-hand
box it
side
in.
of your screen. There it is. It's as easy as that through SnapScan.
That's right. Well, we are also back with Dr. Darren Green as we continue our medical health chat, as July is Mental Illness Awareness Month, something that we definitely need to have more conversations around. And Dr. Darren Green, you were talking earlier about, pointing out early signs of dementia, but how do you approach it when you notice one of your family members could potentially be showing these signs?
Or your friends.
Or your friends.
Or your friends, 100%. So I think one of the biggest challenges is that the family themselves don't want to accept that. If you have a mom or dad that you respect and put on a pedestal, and they've been your stealth, your icon, can you imagine what it's like identifying suddenly that they might be losing some of their function? Firstly, you go through a process of shock, denial, anger, etc., etc. Why me? Is this happening to me? Is this real? Is it in my family? What did she do or he do to deserve it? Could they have done anything to prevent it? Is it self-induced? And you go through those cognitive emotions as a caregiver, a spouse, etc. So you need to think about that. But then also with that, you need to think that we need to firstly make sure, where are we in terms of our cognitive and mental ability? Is this mild cognitive impairment, which is a stage between normal aging and developing dementia, a stage when you start noticing a loss of certain functions, but you can still function quite well. Sometimes totally independently even on your day-to-day living, and sometimes starting to need some assistance. Because what we want to know ideally as family members and carers is when to add help and to make someone maintain their independence as long as possible. And that's why it's important. So we need a formal assessment done of your cognitive abilities, and that gets done obviously by a specially trained psychiatrist or psychologist rather, in terms of those group of testings, looking at which domains are affected, and then you can plan the assistance and the living conditions at home around that. So yeah, once again, important.
We've got a caller on the line.
Good.
Stess calling us from KZN. Good morning, Stess.
Good morning, Dave.
Thank you very much for your call. What is your comment or your question on this topic?
Yeah, I just want to know if it can be linked my condition, because I used to be an alcoholic, really drank hectic for 30 years, and then stopped recently this year. But then after that, I got really sick. I had to go for cancer test, but then also my mind, something is wrong with my mind, because I'm starting to forget, loss of interest. I used to build furniture, everything. My grass stays close. I don't get the guts to go into the grass. Let's say I have to change the plug. I walk to the room and I forget about the plug. So I even forget my glasses on my head, and then I search for my glasses. Yeah, it's something. I just want to know if it can be linked after being an alcoholic or something with the brain. I don't know.
Thank you very much for that, Stess. We really appreciate it. So, I mean, early on we were actually talking about it, where the alcohol does either induce or further aid the decline of mental health.
It certainly does. It obviously has been demonstrated now to contribute to the development of many cancers, triggering also obviously certain genes for certain syndromes that could lead to mental decline later on. What we know about alcohol in the brain is the following. It causes shrinkage of the brain. You take someone who drinks alcohol, someone who doesn't, you compare their brains, and you can see the person that's drunk alcohol, and I'm speaking about considerable amounts of alcohol as well, where you can accelerate the process of the loss of brain cells and shrinkage, where the wrinkles and the amount of brain volume actually deteriorates in someone that drinks alcohol versus someone that doesn't. Regarding his other question about his work and his day-to-day life and tasks, obviously he notices his glasses are on his head and he'll spend time looking for them. I've looked for my cell phone while speaking on it because of not being mindful and not being, you're not concentrating, you're distracted. And some of us live in a bubble, or rather not in a bubble, but we live with concentration in so many different places that it's not so much a mental decline process, but more a concentration and focus thing sometimes that allows us to misplace the keys or forget things. So important for that neuropsychologist that I mentioned to help you differentiate between an attention, concentration issue or a proper decrease in memory.
Okay. Well, Dr. Darren Green's still going to be with us. So if you've got another comment or a question, please call us. Our lines are open. It's 021-430-9881. But let's quickly catch up with the morning headlines.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
All right. right, we have one more opportunity right now to have a conversation with Dr. Darren Green, with July being Mental Health Awareness Month. We've been focusing on that topic. And a caller came in and asked, when is it the right time to send someone to a home in order for them to receive better care, perhaps there? So, which is, I think, something that a lot of families struggle with.
It's real. So what we need to do is look at what are your capabilities as a unit, as a family unit, as a guardian, in terms of being all the children, being the uncles and aunts of caring for someone that has started to lose their function. What are your capabilities at home? Is there someone at home, etc., that can help? Is there someone that's available during the day, during the night, etc.? But before you even get there, you need an assessment, and the people that are highly skilled in doing the neuropsychological evaluation of the patient. So the patient's abilities would determine at which stage they need dependent or interdependent care, where they will need a helper to go to the bathroom, for example, where they'll need a helper to get dressed in the mornings, whether the meals can be still be prepared for someone with early cognitive impairment, or whether they need someone to do that for them. So once you've got that staging of the dementia or the cognitive decline, when you've got that, then you can start planning with a group. And often there's social workers that are involved, family facilitators, because you can imagine one child thinks the other child has more money and they should be looking after the parents. Then that one can pay for the old age home or the retirement village. And so it creates so much conflict amongst siblings, families. So the best advice we can give is use the organizations. I mean, you've got the Alzheimer's.sa website. You can go on there. There are resources of people in your different areas that you can use. You can phone them. Start off with the process of a facilitated social worker, for example. Just calling the family together, saying, this is where we're at, this is where we need to go, and where to from here, and then the ball will get rolling in that way.
Okay, well, we have another caller online.
No, we don't, unfortunately. But maybe just quickly highlight some lifestyle changes that we can make, perhaps exercising, eating well, to help maybe delay the onset of dementia.
So what helps you keep your mental function longer, your resilience, your brain function? Exercise, and specifically introducing things called high-intensity interval training. It allows the brain to make new brain cells until the day you die. So remember that to incorporate. That means getting your heart rate up to maximum heart rate for a minute and keeping it there. Right. Then obviously smoking obviously accelerates that process. Blood pressure that's not controlled. Exercise obviously brings down blood pressure over time. And then, of course, looking at your diet in terms of things that cause inflammation in the brain and things that don't. So look, and you can Google these days what brain food is, looking at the things that don't cause inflammation in the brain. Obviously, introducing things like omega-3 and good oily fish into your diet is also very good. Hopefully, we can learn a bit more about that today as well.
Okay. Well, Dr. Darren Green, thank you so much for today's medical chat in light of Mental Illness Awareness Month. That was the month of July. And of course, there are various organizations that you can reach out to if you feel like you need the help that you need. And thank you so much for joining us for this chat.